Hello, welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys. And you may note that things look a little bit different on the set. We are on location at CPAC 2021 in Orlando, Florida, and this is the last day.
We're in our remote studio.
But I tell you what, over the past couple of days, we have done some pretty interesting talking to some pretty interesting people.
We've got a variety of people that we have interviewed. I think you're going to enjoy this. And they're not all going to be in this show. We're going to have 3 interviews in this show, and we're going to have 3 or 4 in the next show.
Yeah, we had to choose between cramming it all into one or spreading it out over 2, and we decided spreading it out over 2 would work better.
Yeah.
Now, one thing we normally do here on FAIRtax Power Radio, we look at congress.gov to see what the Congress critters are doing to us. We're not going to have time to get into any of the specific bills that have been introduced, but you did check the number of hits on our search versus the number of days they've been in session, and it's getting back to normal.
Oh, yes, no, which is abnormal. But anyways, yeah, I checked the congressional calendar. They've been in session as of the recording date. Today is, what, the 28th?
Correct.
All right.
28th February.
So, and they'll be back in session tomorrow. But they've been in session 25 days in Congress. I'm not counting Senate, just in Congress. And they have 201 proposals to change the tax code. And this is just, we're going to congress.gov, and in quotes in the search bar you put Internal Revenue Code, in quotes, and press the search bar, and 201 proposals to change the tax code in 25 days of Congress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
that's
they're getting up there. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
I say in 2 weeks we'll get back to looking at the specifics of some of the bills on congress.gov. But for now, let's get into some of the videos. This first one is one of my favorite ones.
It is.
Don't you just love it when you see someone and you tell them about the fair tax for the first time and they didn't know about it to begin with, and you tell them about it, and you see their eyes light up, and the enthusiasm that these folks have, that this young man had for the fair tax when we explained it to him. He had no clue that something like this even existed.
Well, let me set this up. In CPAC, first off, I want to back up a little bit. Because we're at the Conservative Political Action Conference, okay, does not mean that the fair tax is just for Republicans and conservatives.
Correct.
Not at all. The fair tax, as you know, if you've studied the fair tax at all, is for all Americans, all right? It is unfortunate that the partisanship has gotten so extreme in Washington that if one party suggests something, the other party categorically denies it, okay? That's too bad, because the fair tax is a bipartisan issue. But we took this opportunity to go to CPAC. We went to what they call CPAC Central, which is the vendor area, and we talked to a number of vendors, okay? And some other people sought us out, as you'll see. So this first guy, Ronnie Jones,
he was not aware of the fair tax at all.
Yeah.
Of course, when we talk to these vendors and exhibitors, we like to give them a chance to explain who they are and what they do.
Right.
So there's going to be a little bit of non-fair tax stuff in these interviews with the
but you have to give them that opportunity.
Yeah, but you got to give them that opportunity because they got some really, really good causes down there. But I say, let's get right to this guy. Let's watch the reaction of someone who had never heard about the fair tax before.
Yeah.
Roll it. All right. Oh, we're on your iPad as well.
This is great, you all. Like, you have no idea.
Okay, we're speaking with Ronnie Jones, and you are with, who are you representing?
With Go USA. We are remaking the Republican Party and make it look really great again, you all.
Absolutely. Now, I noticed you've been talking to Elaine a minute ago, and she was explaining the fair tax to you. Can you contain your enthusiasm a little bit here? And we can say you like the idea.
That is beyond amazing. Like, I don't got to worry about it later on or nothing. It just does it all right there. Like, that is, like, beyond great.
Had you heard about the fair tax prior to this?
No, never, ever in life.
That's one of the problems we have. This has been around for 20 years. It was first introduced into Congress in 1999. It was developed in the mid-90s, developed by a team of economists that were given a blank sheet of paper. They said, just design us from the ground up the best tax system you possibly can that raises the same amount of money for the government that it's currently getting with the income tax. What they came up with with came to be known as the FAIRtax.
Okay.
Now, she was talking to you a minute ago. You get your entire paycheck, no withholding, no payroll taxes. You get a tax refund every month. You don't have to file a tax return anymore. The IRS goes away. Now, from that list, what's your favorite thing about the FAIRtax?
The IRS gone. They gotta go. They been shoulda went, but whatever. I don't make the rules, but you guys made it happen, so definitely this is great.
We're trying to make it happen. Yeah, the IRS it's been described as a criminal enterprise. I think
less government, that's what we're all about, so yeah, this is great.
Yeah, and the IRS, I know, they don't even have to accuse you of something. They just kind of think it in the back of their mind, and they can come in and take your bank account. They can garnish your wages, just thinking that you might have done something wrong. Now, that kind of sounds like something that the founding fathers who wrote the Bill of Rights wouldn't like too much.
Yeah, like, what gives them the right to do that? And there's nothing we could do about it. But now, we're doing something about it.
All right. Well, we're pleased to meet a new FAIRtax fan.
Yes.
Now, briefly describe what your organization does and how they can get in touch with you.
Oh, definitely. So Go USA, grand opening USA opportunity. You can follow us online at gousa.com. We have an Instagram, Twitter, Go USA. Pretty much, like we're saying, we're just trying to make politics look great again. We have steps really where whenever someone goes, when you go to go vote for someone, we pretty much rank them, you know what I'm saying? And instead of just going by like their personality or how they look, or maybe you went to high school with them or something, no. Now we're ranking them on the actual political Republican policies and stuff like that. So
rank them on the stuff that counts.
Exactly. It's like a new age of how to want to go vote for someone, you know? So yeah, that's what we're all about.
A pleasure to make your acquaintance, and hopefully we can work together in the future to get the FAIRtax passed and get more Republicans elected.
Yeah, definitely. That's what we're trying to do.
All right. Thank you so much.
This is great, though. This is awesome, you all.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
That was fun. That was fun talking to him.
That was enjoyable. And of course, the thing is, I'm behind the camera. You've got the mic. I can't hear what you guys are talking about while I'm rolling the film. So I have no idea how it went until I processed the video later. But it was excellent. But I saw his reaction because before you talked to him, Elaine talked to him, and she was explaining. He was truly excited.
Yes, he was.
It was great to see. It really does our hearts good, you know, when you see somebody get that excited. So,
and it's not unusual for people who think they are stuck with the lifetime of the IRS and the income tax to when the light bulb goes on and they realize, hey, I don't have to put up with that garbage. We can get rid of it if we can get enough people to do that.
There is hope.
Yes. Now, you mentioned earlier somebody seeking us out.
Yeah.
Now, we have mentioned several times here on FAIRtax Power Radio a gentleman named Alan Waters. He is running for Congress in the state of Rhode Island. And as I say, we were walking around.
In our new shirts.
Yeah, in our FAIRtax Power Radio shirts here.
Yep.
You going to turn around? No, this same logo is replicated on the back, much larger.
Yeah,
but
I'll put an image up there.
We were walking around there in the CPAC Central, and this guy comes running up to us. Hey, FAIRtax Guys! It was Alan Waters.
Yeah, we've talked about Alan before. If you've watched our program before, you've seen us talk about Alan Waters. He's from Rhode Island, and currently he is running for Congress in the 2022 election, all right? And we'll let him talk about it, but he saw our shirts, and he came over to us, and, well, the rest is on the video.
Okay, roll it. Okay, as we continue talking to people here at CPAC, a gentleman that we have talked about before, but we've never really met in person yet. Alan Waters, a pleasure to meet you, sir.
It's a pleasure to meet you both. When I saw you, I got excited. I said, it's the FAIRtax Guys.
All right. Explain, what do you do? You're running for Congress in 2022.
Yeah, Rhode Island and District 1. So that's state of Rhode Island, and currently the David Cicilline is the current congressperson in that district in the state.
Rhode Island is kind of blue. You think you can overcome that and get elected?
Well, if you have any fear of that, then the answer is you won't even get up in the morning and try. But I think that I can, because the state is small, so therefore you can do a lot of grassroots and get out to see the people. And it's early enough to make a difference.
Right. Now it says right here on the on your card. Now we'll have to insert a picture of this card. Here is Alan Waters for Congress 2022. Common sense solutions, mainstream values, and right under that says, "I support the FAIRtax Act in Congress."
I have been supporting the FAIRtax Act for years now, and I've ran for different things. And consider me the FAIRtax candidate always and often. And people even get excited about it when I speak about it in Rhode Island. I see on my social media.
How many people do you talk to who have never heard of the FAIRtax and don't know what you're talking about? You have to educate them on what it is.
Well, I think still most people still have to be educated on what it's all about. But I'm just glad that in my small way I can be out front for you.
How did you learn about the FAIRtax?
I learned about the FAIRtax because I think I may have seen it on the internet one time and got interested. And then I met some of the principals or some of the leaders in the FAIRtax movement, a gentleman down in New Jersey. And from there, I just stayed with it because I really believe in it. If we're going to help America, reduce our costs, reduce corruption, and have a much simpler way about things, grow the economy, the FAIRtax is it.
I'm going to ask you a real tough question here. What's your favorite part about it? What really sold you on the idea?
Really? Well, we spend over $1 trillion to comply, and we could use that money for other things. And so I like that. The simplicity of the whole package. It's so simple that people will think, well, gee, how can that be? But that's what I like about it.
That is exactly my mother's reaction when I explained it to her. Why aren't we doing this already? It makes too much sense.
It makes so much sense. But think about it. To replace the federal income tax with a national sales tax on only new goods and services, rebate that tax up to the poverty level so it doesn't hurt the poor, and most importantly, close the IRS. It's beauty, just a beauty. The whole thing is a beautiful package. I love the FAIRtax Act.
How are you going to get your colleagues, if you're elected, to go along with them and bring them around to your way of thinking?
Well, it sounds like politics, so do for me and I could do for you, So hopefully just to be back and push it to the forefront and work really hard at it. And but what we want to do is keep it alive.
Absolutely. How do people get a hold of you, and how can people help you in your campaign?
Well, I'll tell you. One thing, go to my web address. That's alanrwaters.com. And you can see me on social media, Twitter, and also on Facebook, Alan Waters for Rhode Island or Alan Waters for Congress. And please send contributions, but most importantly, support the FAIRtax with me.
All righty. Well, I'm afraid I live in Florida, so I can't vote for you, but if I lived up there, I would.
That's right. Well, you know what? We need to, depending on your politics, I'd like to see the House go red again.
Absolutely. Well, this is really a bipartisan idea. You don't have to be a conservative or a Republican to enjoy getting your entire paycheck, to enjoy not having to fill out a tax return, to enjoy getting a tax refund every month. Why is this not more of a bipartisan issue?
I believe that there is so much corruption, so much favors buried into the tax code that the average politician who goes there not for the people but for their special interests. But I'm a man of the people, and you're right, it's not one party or another, it's for the American people, and this is going to make America better for everyone. That's why I support it.
Well, we're certainly glad to have you on board with us. We'll be watching your race closely, and good luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'd shake your hand, but I don't want to violate COVID protocol, so we'll just do it that way. Alan Waters on FAIRtax Power Radio. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, that was Alan Waters, and it was equally refreshing to see a candidate as enthusiastic about the FAIRtax as that young man was we saw in the previous video that had just learned about it for the first time.
It really is. And he's got it on his business card.
Yeah, that's amazing. Right there on his little campaign card, it says Alan Waters 2020. I forget exactly what it said, but the third line down says, "I support the FAIRtax." And
can't get better than that. So
it can't any better than that. So obviously now,
Yeah.
I guess we as individuals can recommend people who to vote for, but since we kind of represent the organization, we'll stay away from there. We'll just educate people on the fact that Alan Waters in Rhode Island is a really strong FAIRtax candidate.
He absolutely is. Yep, and he has been for a while. So it was good to see. So that interview was pretty interesting. Any part of it stand out?
Oh, just he was almost like Jay Dwally. You ask him a question and he just grabs it and runs with it.
Yes.
Very easy man to interview. But just his overall enthusiasm for the FAIRtax, and of course Rhode Island is a deep blue state, and that's one of the things that we talked about. Do you think you can pull this off? And he kind of set me straight and says, well, if I didn't think I could pull it off, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't have asked him that question. But, it is what it is.
Well, somebody has to ask him. No, but he's and you have to. Somebody who runs for Congress when the odds are against him, you have to give him credit.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So, and that's why when somebody comes to me with the petition card, they want to get on the ballot for like a primary. I don't care if they're Republican or Democrat. Yeah, I'm a Republican, but no matter what party they are, I'll sign it because more power to them. If they want to run for office and serve the public, I'm for it.
No, I tell them I'll sign your petition if you'll sign the FAIRtax candidate pledge.
That's a good way to do it.
That's a fair trade.
Yep.
So that works. Okay. Now let's move on to someone who ran for Congress and succeeded.
Oh yeah.
Now, this is a young lady. She was actually Congressman Ted Yoho's chief of staff for the 8 years that Ted Yoho was
Deputy
in Congress.
chief of staff.
Okay, well, whatever. And close. But, of course, Ted Yoho retired from Congress. He was an avid, very strong FAIRtax supporter. He'd carry the prebate cards around in his pocket and give them out to people. Yeah. And his deputy chief of staff, a young lady named Kat Kamek, was one of 9 people in the Republican primary, if I'm remembering correctly, that ran to replace him. She won the primary, and then she won the general election.
Yeah, and I remember when the several times that we interviewed Congressman Yoho, Kat was right there watching us, making sure we didn't go overboard.
Yeah, and now she's got somebody doing to her the same thing that she did to Congressman Yoho. So what goes around comes around. But
so we were very pleased. Our interview with her was kind of delayed because, believe it or not, Fox News had priority over us.
Oh well, what's funny? We were originally scheduled to talk to her about 2:30. We got to her about 6:45.
Yeah,
that was amazing. That a freshman congressperson who really has very little name recognition outside her own district was just run ragged. She was
everywhere.
Quite high demand, but
well, I told her earlier I was very proud of her because she hit the ground running. She got up to Washington. She didn't wait until she got sworn in on January 3rd. She was on TV. She was on Newsmax. She was on other sites, Fox News, and she was getting involved, getting people together, on her side of the aisle and so forth. She's a go-getter, and it's refreshing to see you've got other people like Matt Gaetz and Byron Donalds. These are very young people. They're like less than half my age.
Yeah. Before we run this,
they're really going at it.
Before we run the video with Kat, let's mention that we did talk to Byron Donalds. There were some people that we talked to that did not appear on camera. He was one, and another was a young man who was trying to unseat Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Yeah,
he was not well versed on the FAIRtax, and there's a good chance that we can go down there to his district and educate him and his staff. Remember when we did educate Kat's staff? Those who had not.
That's right. She had us do a class and an introduction for her staff. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe we can do that for this guy. His name was Reuben Young, if I remember correctly.
I believe so.
We're getting kind of tight on time here, so let's go ahead and roll this clip with Kat Kamek.
Yeah.
FAIRtax Power Radio at CPAC 2021 continues. We are talking now with Representative Kat Kamek, Florida District 3. It has been a long day. I know they have run you ragged, so thank you for taking a little time to talk to us.
Absolutely. And CPAC is fantastic. Even though we're all a little bit tired, it has been phenomenal. You have got such a powerhouse lineup of speakers, so many great ideas and issues for the conservative movement are being talked here. This is really the energy that we use going forward forward that coalesces us as one entity, unified in fighting to take the House back. So fantastic speakers, fantastic programming here at CPAC.
Agreed. Now, last time we talked to you, you were candidate Kat Kamek. We were in your campaign office, and you were signing the FAIRtax Candidates Pledge. So first order of business here is to thank you for following through on that pledge and actually becoming a co-sponsor of the H.R. 25 bill in the House.
Absolutely. No, proud to do it, and that's something that hopefully we can be working on now in the minority to educate other members and hopefully get them to sign on as co-sponsors for the FAIRtax, so that when we're in the majority, we have members that can be ambassadors for this legislation and we can implement change.
I mean, well, I see. Last time we looked, there were 17 co-sponsors. Out of 435 House members, we do have our work cut out for us.
Absolutely. And this shouldn't be a Republican or a Democrat issue. This is an American issue. And at the end of the day, the FAIRtax is just that. It's fair. And I can think everyone can agree and would like to see reforms done. Right now, you look at what's happening with COVID and the impact it's had on the IRS. They're operating at 50%. We're seeing this outrageous spending that is happening at the federal level, really pushing Americans deep into debt, increasing our national debt, our deficit, and we're going to be on the hook for this. How are they going to pay for it? Well, they're going to raise taxes. This is all the more reason, regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, that you should be behind the FAIRtax.
Okay, well, you raised that as an American issue. That led right into what I was going to ask you about. I wanted to back up a little bit to the last interview we did with you. There are multiplied thousands of people in Washington, D.C. making good money off the income tax. You called it un-American. Now, that's an idea that needs to be hammered home at every opportunity. Revisit that if you would.
Well, I can't even really remember what we were talking about back then, but you think about how we use the funds generated, right? Mm-hmm. How government generates its income. Mm-hmm. We're taxing individuals, and the notion is that the more that you create, the more that you prosper, the more we penalize you. So we're disincentivizing those from creating jobs, investing in our local economies, and and really excelling. That is un-American. So we need to take a look at our tax structure and really understand that if we want to really be the shining beacon on the hill and be the country of innovation that we have always been, we need to have a tax structure that incentivizes that. The FAIRtax basing all of your consumption, your tax based on consumption, that's fair because it is all dependent on your lifestyle and what you want to do.
All right. Well, you don't have to be a conservative or a Republican to like getting your entire paycheck with no withholding,
exactly.
To see the IRS go away, the abuses that come with it, the audits that people have to undergo, the civil asset forfeiture. We've talked about that on FAIRtax Power Radio a lot. All of that goes away, and then that it goes across political ideology. How do we get the other side interested in this and get them to realize it's not a partisan issue like you said?
I think it just starts with having that conversation. I think that too often people have a preconceived notion of a bill or an idea because so many people on the right have been a champion of this. Maybe it's just because we get it. I think that we need to make a concerted effort to reach out to our friends across the aisle, starting with the freshman class. I think if you tell their constituents that they can go home and keep their entire paycheck, that's very attractive. And they would love to see some solution that allows Republicans and Democrats to come together. The FAIRtax is an American solution, not a partisan one.
We haven't heard much about it. If you watch it on any of the business networks and they're talking about it, the FAIRtax is hardly in the conversation, which kind of surprises me considering how well it would work for everybody. Any theories on that?
Well, as we know, you have large entities that are heavily involved. I think we have to start talking to some of the associations that really govern the business community. The U.S. Chamber, for example, talking with their team, talking with the NFIB, talking with all the associations that really represent the small businesses of America as well as our larger corporations. If you can get them behind it, that'll go a long way.
I agree. Well, I'll tell you what, it's been a long day. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you,
again,
Bob.
We appreciate your support, and if you can be the warrior for the FAIRtax that your previous boss, Ted Yoho, was, we're in good shape.
I appreciate that. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Keep up the good work.
Interesting conversation with Kat Kamek. It sounds like that the FAIRtax is in good hands.
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
What was interesting, though, just about, if I'm not mistaken, every Republican candidate in the primary signed the FAIRtax pledge in Florida 3, where Kat Kamek is now the representative from.
Yes, I think that's true, and we can thank Randy for that, because he stayed on these people, and even some that hesitated at first, they saw the light and they signed the pledge. That's true.
I think Kat probably had a better working knowledge of the FAIRtax than any of them, and it's good to see
because their boss was a co-sponsor.
Good to see a solid FAIRtax supporter replacing a solid FAIRtax supporter who retired from Congress. And I'll mention this real quick. Jim Bennett had a Grassroots Corner not long ago where he listed all of the people the FAIRtax co-sponsors who retired and who replaced them. So people in those districts need to catch up with those successors and see if we can persuade them to follow in their predecessors' footsteps and
you can get the
FAIRtax.
Grassroots Corner and the Chairman's Report and an update on FAIRtax Power Radio if you go to fairtax.org and click the news button up on top. All right, just click the news button. It'll take you to a page with the Grassroots Corner and the Chairman's Report, and then there's a drop down for the FAIRtax Guys, and that'll take you to another page. So we thank our friends from Political Media for upping the ante, or upping the exposure of FAIRtax Power Radio. So sign up with fairtax.org, and we also encourage you to go fairtax.org/1040, and there, if you care to, you can make a commitment to send the national group, the Americans for Fair Taxation, commit to $10.40 a month to support their efforts. Those recurring or monthly donations are very important for them, because it is a national group. They have big expenses just to run an all volunteer force. No salaries, no paychecks, okay? All volunteer. So help us out if you can.
All righty, and tune in next week to FAIRtax Power Radio. We'll have some more videos. Next week's show will be largely folks that we did meet down there in the vendor exhibitor area.
Right.
And so you can learn a bit more about some of the other organizations that are out there working on behalf of the country. And again, we talked to some young people who had not really known much about the FAIRtax, and as we expected, we didn't find anybody who didn't like it.
That's right. When they find out, when you understand it, you'll demand it. That's really true.
Absolutely. Again, we would encourage you to, if you have questions or comments about the FAIRtax, write us at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. You can leave comments on our YouTube channel. You can leave comments on our Facebook page, or get us the email address. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us.
We're on Parler.
Yep.
And
back.
Our videos are also on Rumble as well as YouTube.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah,
So
we had a lot of fun.
We'll see everyone again next week from more of these CPAC in area. I hope they have CPAC in Florida again next year, so we can do this again. That would be really good. We'll have to talk to Matt Schlapp to see if we can get him to do that. But until then, we're the FAIRtax Guys. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Rob Malero.
Reminding you that the FAIRtax is the only truly fair tax, and once you understand it,
you'll demand it. Follow the FAIRtax Guys on social media and their own website, fairtaxguys.com, and check back every week for a new episode of FAIRtax Power Radio.